Isaiah chapter 37. When King Hezekiah heard it, he tore his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth and went into Yahweh's house. He sent Eliakim, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe and the elders of the priests, covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz. They said to him, Hezekiah says, Today is a day of trouble and of rebuke and of rejection, for the children have come to the birth, and there is no strength to give birth. It may be Yahweh your God will hear the words of Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria his master has sent to defy the living God, and will rebuke the words which Yahweh your God has heard. Therefore, lift up your prayer for the remnant that is left. So the servants of King Hezekiah came to Isaiah. Isaiah said to them, Tell your master, Yahweh says, Don't be afraid of the words you have heard, with which the servant of the king of Assyria has blasphemed me. Behold, I will put a spirit in him, and he will hear news, and will return to his own land. I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. So Rabshakeh returned and found the king of Assyria warring against Libnah, for he heard that he had departed from Lachish. He heard news concerning Tirhakah, king of Ethiopia. He has come out to fight against you. When he heard it, he sent messages to Hezekiah, saying, Thus you shall speak to Hezekiah, king of Judah, saying, Don't let your God in whom you trust deceive you, saying, Jerusalem won't be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Behold, you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all lands, by destroying them utterly. Shall you be delivered? Have the gods of the nations delivered them, which my fathers have destroyed, Gozan, Haran, Rezeph, and the children of Eden who were in Telassar? Where is the king of Hamath, the king of Arpad, and the king of the city of Sepharvaim, of Hannah and Eva? Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. Then Hezekiah went up to Yahweh's house and spread it before Yahweh. Hezekiah prayed to Yahweh, saying, Yahweh of armies, the God of Israel, who is enthroned among the cherubim, you are the God, even you alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth. Turn your ear, Yahweh, and hear. Truly, Yahweh, the kings of Assyria have destroyed all the countries and their land. They have cast their gods into the fire, for they were not gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they have destroyed them. But therefore, Yahweh our God, save us from his hand, that the kingdoms of the earth may know that you, Yahweh, even you only. Then Isaiah the son of Amoz sent to Hezekiah, saying, Yahweh the God of Israel says, Because you have prayed to me against Sennacherib, king of Assyria, this is the word which Yahweh has spoken concerning him. The virgin daughter of Zion has despised you and ridiculed you. The daughter of Jerusalem has shaken her head at you. Whom have you defied and blasphemed? Against whom have you exalted your voice and lifted up your eyes on high? Against the Holy One of Israel. By your servants you have defied the Lord and have said, With the multitude of my chariots I have come up to the height of the mountains, to the innermost parts of Lebanon. I will cut down its tall cedars and its choice cypress trees. I will enter into its furthest height, the forest of its fruitful field. I have dug and drunk water with the sole of my feet. I will dry up all the rivers of Egypt. Have you not heard now how I have done it long ago and formed it in ancient times? Now I have brought it to pass that it should be yours to destroy fortified cities, turning them into ruinous heaps. Therefore their inhabitants had little power. They were dismayed and confounded. They were like the grass of the field, and like the green herb, like the grass on the housetops, and like a field with its crop has grown. Like a field before its crop has grown. But I know you're sitting down, you're going out, you're coming in, and you're raging against me. Because of your raging against me, and because your arrogance has come into my ears, therefore I will put my hook in your nose, and my bridle in your lips, and I will turn you back by the way which you came. This shall be the sign to you. You will eat this year that which grows of itself, and in the second year that which springs from it, and in the third year sow and reap, and plant vineyards and eat their fruit. The remnant that is escaped from the house of Judah will again take root downward and bear fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem a remnant will go out, and survivors will escape survivors will escape from Mount Zion. The zeal of Yahweh of armies will perform this. Therefore, Yahweh says concerning the king of Assyria, he will not come to this city, nor shoot an arrow there, neither will he come before it with shield, nor cast up a mound against it. He will return the way that he came, and he won't come to this city, says Yahweh, for I will defend this city to save it for my own sake, and for my servant David's sake. Then Yahweh's army went out and struck 185,000 men in the camp of the Assyrians. When men arose early in the morning, behold, these were all dead bodies. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed, went away, returned to Nineveh, and stayed there. And as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch, his god, Adramelech and Sharezer, his sons, struck him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Ararat. Esarhaddon, his son, reigned in his place. So there's been a lot said in the whole book of Isaiah, really, up to this point, about Assyria. In this chapter, we've got the narrative or the historical account of what happened to the nation or the army of Assyria. Roughly speaking, to summarize this chapter, they were in the nation of Judah, they were in that region, they weren't right camped up against the walls of Jerusalem, but they hadn't got there yet. And they'd sent this letter, which we read about in this chapter, and King Hezekiah had taken the letter and gone and prayed. And he had said to the Lord, he said, this army has destroyed the other nations and their gods because they are not even gods. They're just statues made of wood and stone. But saying, but you are the Lord who made the heavens and earth. So he's crying out to the Lord in prayer. And now I'm going to pause here for a minute and just mention that Hezekiah did place his full trust in the Lord, but he was also practical. And he also did a few things too. And one of the things he did was he rerouted a spring, I think it was the Gihon spring, and he rerouted it back into the city. He dug this tunnel through 500 meters of solid rock underneath the city, and then rerouted the spring so that the spring didn't flow out of the city and, basically provide the enemy with a water source. But he rerouted the water to keep it within the city. That tunnel is called King Hezekiah's Tunnel. You can go to Jerusalem and you can walk the tunnel. Tourists do it every day. And it's one of the things on my bucket list. I've talked about this when we were back in the Kings videos. And I'd love to take my children there. And, hopefully one day we'll get there. And it's one of the most, visual things that shows the Bible coming to life. And so Hezekiah did place his full trust in the Lord, but he also did what he could do as well. And that's, I think, that's the attitude we should have as people. A few chapters ago, in chapter 31, we were talking about this idea of don't go down to Egypt for help. Don't place your trust in human abilities. That's not the same thing as saying don't do anything. So we're not saying don't ever do anything. It's kind of a bit like, should you work to earn an income? Or should you just sit on your butt and say, oh, God will provide for my needs, I don't have to do anything. Well, the truth is, you're not placing your trust in your abilities, but you're still going and working. So this is kind of like Hezekiah's approach. Hezekiah has placed his trust in the Lord, but in the end, he's doing what he can do. And if he's limited to what he can do, he's doing the most he can do, but then his trust is in the Lord. His trust isn't in what he does, but he's still doing what he can do. And so it's a little bit like, if you fall over and you got a sore, well, pray that you'll heal quickly, but put a Band-Aid on as well. Do both. and every now and then you hear a story of someone that, gets charged, in a lawsuit because they didn't take care of their children, because their approach was, we're not going to do anything medical, we're only going to pray for healing. Well, yes, pray for healing. The Lord does heal. Also, I've seen all sorts of miracles. You probably have too. But we also do what we know to do as well. We do both. So, if you want to lose weight, exercise and pray to lose weight. Do both. And, if you want to do well at school, pray that the Lord will help you, but study. You do both. You do what you can do, but while you're doing what you can do, you place your trust in the Lord. Hezekiah was someone like that. So he placed his trust in the Lord, as we see in this chapter, but he also dug a tunnel. And so that's very, very cool. And so we get then, he goes to the Lord in prayer, says, Lord, this is what King of Assyria has says. And the Lord got angry against the king of Assyria and sent the word. And he said, right down here in verse 33, Yahweh says concerning the king of Assyria, he will not come to this city. And he never did. The king of Assyria was on his way to Jerusalem, but he never actually made it there. And verse 33, he will not shoot an arrow there. He did not shoot an arrow there. He will return the way that he came. And he did return the way that he came. If you are a tourist and you go to the city of Nineveh today, now Nineveh is an archaeological excavation. You can see the ancient city of Nineveh, and they've dug up sections of it, including the palace of Sennacherib. This particular guy, his palace has been discovered. And on the walls of his palace are all these carvings of his military campaigns. Guess which city is not carved in? Jerusalem, because he didn't make it there. And so, historians and people who don't kind of believe the miraculous part of the Bible, historians and archaeologists, they've tended to become more and more trusting of the Bible as time has gone along, because it seems to be proven correct. But most of them are still kind of skeptical of the miraculous component. And what people like that seem to say about this is they say, for some reason, Sennacherib turned his army around and left. For some reason, we're not really sure why, but from this point on, the military power of Assyria seems to have waned. And they don't have a reason for it, but of course the Bible gives us the reason. I'd like to say that it's never, ever a smart move to challenge the Lord. And, we saw that with the Titanic, where, that guy built the Titanic and said, even God could not sink this ship. Well, in this story, the king of Assyria is basically saying, God cannot deliver you from me. I'm greater than all the gods. Well, see, that was a challenge. And the Lord seems to not like challenges like that. Down at the end of this chapter, Isaiah gave King Hezekiah a sign. And he said this shall be the sign to you. You will eat that which grows of itself this year, and the second year that which springs from that, and the third year sow and reap and eat fruit. So he was basically saying to Hezekiah, this year you're going to get by. Next year, you won't have time to sow and reap next year, but next year there'll be food that'll spring out naturally. You'll survive, but in the third year you'll be sowing and reaping. And that's what happened, So the year that they were in, they couldn't sow and reap because that was the year of the battle and the king of Assyria was there, and the deliverance happened. The next year, they weren't able to sow and reap because there was too much to do. Rebuilding the city, getting life back on track. But in the third year, there was enough peace. They were able to sow and reap. It's exactly like what Isaiah said. The Lord gave me that particular verse as a promise in 2021. And we were in a week of listening prayer here at Peace, and something we do every year. We have a week of silence, and a huge number of the people in the church, the majority of them, participate in that silence. And I encourage them to come in for at least an hour, but some of them come in for 30 or 40 hours, just sit in silence. It's an amazing experience to do that, and we're going to be doing that again this is the year 2023. We're going to be doing that again very soon. But in the year 2021, as I was in silent prayer, this verse came to mind. And I really felt like the Lord had put that verse on me as a word. And as I thought about it, how did this verse apply to me and to the church here? I really came to a sense that in the third year we were to sow and reap, and we would reap a harvest. And I interpreted that as a gospel verse. And I really feel that this year, 2023, and if you're listening to this in the future, 24, 25, or even further beyond, take a hold of a verse like this as a promise. And I really believe that the Lord was saying that we were going to have a year of harvesting, a year of growing, a year of increase, especially for the gospel. And so I'd encourage you, especially if it's this year 23 for you, believe that you will do things and reap a harvest for the Lord. It's worth putting your faith out for things like that. So Lord, I want to thank you for this. Well, we thank you for the deliverance of your people and how they put their trust in you, and but also how they did what they could do. And I pray that your grace would be upon us, that we would be people whose trust is firmly placed in you, and at the same time are willing to work hard and do what we can. Lord, give us grace to be people of both these things. And so, Lord, I would declare that 23 be a year of harvest. But Lord, for all of those who are listening to this after this year is over, Lord, let 24 or 25 or whatever year they're listening in, I declare it be a year of harvest. Lord, increase your people, I pray. In Jesus' name, amen.